Hello YouTube world, my name is Charles and I am going to talk about this lovely bike that I happened to buy from Fly E-Bike. Stay tuned. So, what do we have? This is a replacement to a bike that I happen to have purchased. Well, I bought this one, I want to say about 3 months ago. Bought it brand new. I bought it from what used to be Fly E-Bike, which I believe is now Fly Cycles. What this is a 2023, I don't know why they sold me a 2023 and 2024. It is a Super SOCO TC Max. Now I have a Super SOCO TC. Big difference between this bike and my other bike, and I'll get into that. But first let me kind of give you the details and the specs of what this is. This, in the state of New York and New Jersey and most states, will have to be classified as a motorcycle because of the top speed. If you're lucky and you go to the DMV and you explain to them what this actually is, some states like myself, and I've gotten lucky, I was able to register this as a moped. It's not super fast. It has a top speed of about maybe 59 miles per hour. I bought the original Super SOCO TC that had a top speed of about, I think it was about 38 miles per hour. It had a hub motor, the old one. It also maxed out at about 3,000 watts. The peak was 3,000 watts. The nominal was 1,500 watts. This has a nominal output of about 3,900 watts with a peak of about 5,100 watts. And a huge difference between this, and I love this about this bike, is if you come down and you see here below, come down with me. This one has a mid-drive motor, and it has a carbon belt that actually drives the back wheel. And this is great for people who want to go to a regular bike shop or a motorcycle shop, and they can easily swap that wheel out. If you have a flat, take that off, replace the wheels. This makes biking a lot easier. This kind of sets it almost along the same lines as a regular motorcycle. All right, so let me just walk you through everything that this bike has to offer that I enjoy about it, okay? One, it has a very comfortable seat, and I'm going to show you how this seat actually comes off. Now, what you just noticed is this actually has a push to start. This does not have a key like your traditional bike. To actually start this, you have to actually press the button on the remote, and then it allows you to power this bike up. And now it's on. Obviously, it's silent, so it does not make any noise. So with the seat, I'll give you a quick overview of what this looks like. This key does two things in this particular keyhole. One way opens the tank, the other way pops the seat. Now for this bike, it has a circuit breaker in the main seat area that allows me to completely shut this bike down. If I am storing this bike over the winter, this allows me to not kill the battery and have the battery draw any power from any of the auxiliary coming from the bike. Put that back in, you just kind of slot that back in, pop that back on. Another cool thing about this is this faux gas tank has a nice slot area that conveniently houses the charger. Now this is a 72 volt bike, and it has a 45 amp hour battery, which I'll show you that right now. This case comes out where the battery is seated, and it has this big boy battery. Now I'm going to show you quickly how this battery comes out. Now I don't do this often because this battery is way too heavy, and I don't ride far enough distances to run this thing down to need to have to take it out into a building with me or into the office when I'm headed to work. The right procedure to do this: first turn it off, the key, counterclockwise, take the seat off, put that to the side, turn the main circuit off. Now the bike has no power. What I like to do is to make sure I press the button multiple times to kind of discharge any additional power that's running through the system. So now this thing is completely discharged of any power. Now what I always have to do is take my key out again. There is a little hole here you have to turn. Well, first take the power cable off, turn that key while taking this big boy out. This is, for most people, now it's easier if you remove the actual key itself to get that out of your way, and you slide this bad boy out. Now I think this thing weighs about 40 pounds. I could be wrong. I will put the specs on the screen for you. And that's it. As you notice, this has the same port, and I'm going to show you that's on the side of the bike, that allows you to plug the charger right in and charge this thing indoors. Now, my requirement for a bike was that I needed a bike that had a removable battery. I needed a bike that was small. I needed a bike that had decent power at 72 volts. I needed a decent sized battery. 45 amp hours is good enough for me. I only have about, I want to say, a 12-mile commute round trip when I'm going into the city. So that worked out for me. It's an agile bike. It's not super heavy. With the battery and everything, this bike weighs about 200 and I want to say 32 pounds. Again, I'll put that specs up on the screen. Now, if you come around, I'll show you how you charge this thing when the battery's inside. Now, once that battery's plugged back in, I'll show you how that goes back in. There's a charge port. You plug that right in and boom, you can charge this with all the batteries in. I guarantee you most people are not going to be taking this battery out. That thing weighs way too much. How you protect yourself. So I have a family, I have kids, and when I get phone calls and I'm riding, and yeah, I can get on the highway with this, I'll get into the speed and specs more detail in a minute. I need to be able to communicate. Now, obviously they sell many different types of helmets. You choose the preference, the size that fits you well, what color you like. For me, I needed something that was all integrated into one. And when I saw this helmet from Sena, I was blown away. This has a built-in intercom, so I can communicate with friends when I'm riding, assuming they also have the Sena helmet with the comm communication system. But if you don't have that and don't want to use that comm communication system, this allows you to connect your Bluetooth phone and allows you hand-free call. Now, this has the ability to speak, to answer calls, speak to change your music, and speaking to do a lot of the other functionalities. For me, I primarily use it to go to next track, to pause the music, to go through the radio stations. Yes, this also has a built-in radio. The speakers sound okay. The quality, when people are hearing me when I speak, they say it sounds really good. Now, obviously there's helmets, and you can buy cheap aftermarket Bluetooth accessory add-ons which you can put on the side of any helmet. You see a lot of the riders with that little piece sticking and that little bulge. I'm not a big fan of that. I liked it all kind of smooth and nice in one. So that's one. Helmets are important. Riding safety is very important. The second most important thing, well, one of the second most important things, is gloves. It can get cold, or potentially you can go down on a bike. Now, I hope I never go down on a bike. I never have, and I hope that I never will. But having the right gloves is very important. Now, I bought these gloves. I don't remember which manufacturer or what the brand is. They're generic. I do know that they are genuine leather gloves, because the quality of the glove is very important. You don't want something that's going to tear up as soon as it hits the ground. This has a couple of functions. This has the palm protection, which is these hard plastic pieces. So when the hands touch the surface of the ground, you're protected. Plus it has the knuckle guards, protected there. And on each area of your finger here, you can see there's also protection. And like I said, considering this is authentic leather, this does a pretty decent job of protecting your hands in the event that, God forbid, something happens to you. Now, like I said, so protection is very important. So these pants, these aren't regular pants. These are rainproof. These are padded in the knee area, so I have the pads. These are very thick. These are primarily for the winter. They're easy to come off. I like these because they have a zipper that kind of comes down over here. I can strap these bad boys off, and you can put these on top of any pants that you're wearing. Like I said, gear is very important. Helmet, the pants, the gloves. Now, I do have several jackets that have the padding. They say it's not the most necessary thing to wear, so I'm kind of just wearing a regular leather jacket. A thick real leather jacket will help protect you in the event of a fall, so that it doesn't rip and shred if you do hit the floor. The other important thing is, like I mentioned, I do ride into the city of New York. Unfortunately, I do have to ride over the George Washington Bridge, which is a nightmare in and of itself. But in the event that I do have to leave this in the street, and when I say leave it in the street, I leave it in the street within view. So I will go into a store where I have clear view of the bike, and I'm just going into a quick store to grab a bottle of water or something quick from the shelf, or make a quick sandwich, and I'm going back and forth in and out to check to see if my bike is okay. But when I'm doing that, I have this lock. Now, this is not the strongest lock. I also have a very heavy duty chain lock, but it's heavy, and I don't lock my bike and leave it in the street all that much. But some protection is better than none. So this works in conjunction, which I'll show you right here. When this bike is off and in the street, like most bikes, this has the ability to lock the stem. So once I turn that key and lock this, you can't move this bike. It is locked in this position. So that's one way to do it. The second way is you can do a couple things. You can release the lock, and a lot of people just kind of, if you're parking in between two cars, just run this lock through your wheel. So what that allows this to do is, you can't ride this bike away. Someone can't just go and start pushing this bike away. So like I mentioned earlier, this has an alarm system that doesn't allow the bike to move. The motor will kick in and lock the bike up, and the alarm will start to go off. Plus you put a lock on it as a secondary precaution, and you put that lock on this area here so that you can't turn the wheel. If you want to park in the middle of the street and you trust the area that you're in, obviously get a thicker lock, but do something, protect your bike in the best way that you can. Now, there are a lot of bikes on the market. There are Harley Davidson Livewire, and the manufacturer Zero makes a bunch of electric bikes. Now, the difference between those bikes, obviously, and this bike is, those are high performance, high output powered motorcycles. This I managed to get for about $2,800. Now, it's listed on Fly E-Bike's website at flyebike.com for about $4,100. They have two different models. They have the ones with the alloy wheels and the one with the spoke wheels. I'm not a fan of spoke wheels. I don't like the look. I get why people like it. It has a different look to it. These wheels seem to be more sturdy, and they don't require any adjustment. But in a nutshell, this bike, about $4,000. Harley Davidson Livewire, they start at about $15,500, and they go up to maybe about $20-something thousand, depending on what you spec on that bike. The Zeros, they have now a whole slew of new dirt bikes that I think started about $6,000, and it goes up from there. This is a good mid-price point because it's a small, agile, light, easy to ride bike. It's affordable. Fly E-Bikes are everywhere. You can take it to any of those shops and get it serviced. It has enough power. The mid-drive motor gives it a good torque. 72 volts is, I believe, the kind of the gold standard for these bikes nowadays. This bike has a good power band. It kind of gets you up and going pretty quickly. On mode 3, I can easily stay on the highway and keep up with traffic at about 60-ish miles per hour. If it's kind of a perfect flow and the wind is kind of hitting me, I've gotten up to about 63, maybe 65 miles per hour, but I'm comfortable at that speed. I don't plan on going any faster. I didn't buy this with the intention on going on long distance commutes, and that's not what this bike is for. You're not gonna go very far on a bike like this with a small battery like this one has. But for the price, for the speed, for the performance, for the size, this is ideal. When I get into the city, I can park this thing, lock it up in a school, against a gate. No one's gonna care about it. I go to a pizza shop or buy some food, I can lock this up in front of the shops. Again, they're gonna look at this, it's not very large, it looks like a scooter, and I'll be good to go. So my recommendation, if you're in the market for a bike, you want something that can register, because this does have a VIN, it's cheap, it's affordable, it's an easy ride. If you're transitioning from an e-bike or you want to try something and start out with a bike, I highly recommend this bike. There are obviously a lot of other bikes that I'm going to list that I have personally looked at getting, but I wind up getting this one because the Fly e-bikes are so easy to go to. You can go into a shop and they'll set it up and they'll kind of talk you through. I've had issues with the prior model that I bought. They took care of it. I also bought this bike, and apparently this one didn't come with, for whatever reason, one of the rear pegs. I called them up. The next day, they had it ready for me. No issues whatsoever. So again, that's everything I have to say about this bike. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I would highly recommend you hit that subscribe button. And if you're interested in any of the future videos that I'm going to put up, hit that notification button. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.